Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Curt Schilling Baseball Show, episode 67, the playoff version. Gonna jump right into it. We're taping Thursday early, so this is before Game 3 in the afternoon with Arizona and Philadelphia. Fat versus Juarez, and Philadelphia has just steamrolled. It's going to be very curious to see how the atmosphere is in Arizona, because Philadelphia is just Philly 6-0 at home. More importantly, they've outscored opponents 39-8. Phillies have hit 15 homers in the last four, all at home. Most home runs in 4 playoff games in history, Major League history. Teams that out homer their opponent are 17-3 this postseason. That's kind of a natural. Kyle Schwarber hit 2 in game 2, giving him 18, ties him with Reggie Jackson for most by a left-hander. Manny Ramirez has 29 to lead everybody. And I've talked about it, John, at length, ad nauseum, and I'm going to continue to say it. Starting pitching is where October wins and loses, and teams dominate. And I said going into the series that Philly had something not a lot of other teams had, and that something is Wheeler and Nola. Gallen and Kelly, the top 2 in Arizona, have gone 10 2/3, 11 hits, 9 earnings, 10 Ks, 5 walks. Wheeler and Nola, 12 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 15 punch-outs, 0 walks. So, yeah, the mismatch there is obvious. And in both of these lineups, you're seeing some pretty amazing offensive stuff, but it's very individual oriented. And let me just add that the Phillies bullpen has been very good. Alvarado 5 1/3, Kimbrel 4, Kerkering 4, Dominguez 3 1/3, Strom 3.1, Lorenzen 1. Those guys have combined for that many scoreless innings, yet to give up a run. And everybody was kind of worried about the Arizona bullpen going into the postseason, and this turned out to be kind of an anchor. And in the new game, it has to be, because very few teams are going in hoping to get an inning or 2 out of their starters. These teams are going in with planning on a third of the game, 9 outs, getting taken care of by the bullpen. Having said that, Ketel Marte has an 11-game hitting streak to start his postseason career. Only 5 players in history have started it with a longer streak. Marquise Grissom in 95-96 at 15. Lazinski for the Phillies, 76-80, 13. Elvis Andrus, 12. Nelson Cruz, 12. Darren Erstad, 12. He's hitting 362 in his career, having also made the playoffs with the 2017 with the Diamondbacks. Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that.
When you're a pitcher, Curt, do you know stuff like that about a batter right away?
Yeah, if you don't, you're not someone who succeeds in October. And I was going to say, the other thing about a guy like this is that this is the kind of thing that lengthens a player's career. And I say that because much like in hockey, you see guys who come alive during the Stanley Cup playoffs. They'll extend their career by 4, 5, or 6 years because they have that playoff asterisk. Yeah, you can sign this guy as he gets to be an older player because he can play, split time, take fewer at bats, but in October he's going to be a valuable asset. Guys can establish that and do establish that, and that's a part of their value going forward. And I'm not talking about guys that are 5-4 with a 3.6. I'm talking about the guys that go and hit like Bryce Harper, who doesn't need to do anything to lengthen his career, but he's hitting over 500 in the playoffs. And you've got a couple guys in this postseason who are putting up some pretty amazing offensive numbers. But game 3 today, and I love what Arizona's done, and I'm going to say this to the Arizona fans, the same thing I said to the Oriole fans again. You're here a year early, and that doesn't make it okay if you get beat. And I know all the things that go with that, but this wasn't supposed to happen. So take this as just icing on the cake. And an enormous value going forward for the people involved, especially the players. And by the way, Corbin Carroll hasn't missed a beat. So there's that.
Does it hurt in the off season though, with them being there early?
No, not anymore, because guys don't pitch enough innings. Off season the postseason might get a pitcher over 200 innings. So what? Back in the day when I in 01, I think my postseason I threw 48 innings, and I ended up with 306 innings that year. And it took me time in the off season, a little longer. But the overlap generally is all self inflicted if you allow it in a negative capacity. So no. Flipping over to the Rangers, Astros, Max Scherzer didn't show up. And the Astros, they didn't pull even, but I got to tell you, I feel like for an Astros club, this was just like, okay, now we're back. Even though they're down 2-1, they have to win. They don't want to go down 3-1. I think that was a huge, huge win for them. And it came on the heels of the same thing in the Diamondback series. The Rangers dominated the first two. Verlander and Valdez went 9 in the third, gave up 13 hits, 6 runs, 11 punch outs, 3 walks to Evaldi and Montgomery, who went 12 in the third, 10 hits, 3 runs, 15 punch outs, 2 walks. Evaldi getting out of the bases loaded jam with no outs, striking out the side, which was striking out Diaz and then Altuve. Then Bregman grounded out. But that was October momentum change. The pitching can lead to an offensive momentum change, and that's one of those things that does that. The bullpen in Texas is clearly set in the 7th, 8th, and 9th with Chapman and Leclerc finishing out and Boers taking the 7th. But again, Houston came out and kind of announced their presence with authority. I got to tell you, the Altuve home run was a bomb. Alvarez is hitting 407 in the playoffs this year. I don't know. I don't think that's a stop pitching to him situation. I think that's a weigh the risk versus reward with base runners for this point, and at this point for when they come to the plate. I would tell you that the Diamondbacks shouldn't be pitching to Harper in any situation with runners in scoring position. And I think there's a couple guys in the Houston lineup, but the big thing was they jumped on Scherzer early and they beat him. He wasn't sharp, which after a month, I guess, is to be expected. But on a side note, Christian Javier ended up with 20 in the third scoreless innings before giving up a run in the 5th. That is tied for the second longest streak in history. Christy Matthews, back in 1905, 1911, went 28. And then Ucridi went 20 in the third last year, this year. Joe Negro went 80, 81, 1980, 81, he went 18. And then Ian Anderson in 2020 went 17 2/3. But the kid is he's a special kid. He's got October on the brain, and a guy that you feel very comfortable. And all of this is to flip back to when you look at your team early in the year and your team gets off to a hot start and you're thinking about October before anybody else should be thinking about it. One of the things you have to look at is the top of your rotation. Is this a rotation that can go in and just nail down 2 games? And I said at the beginning of all these postseason series, that was kind of my litmus test. That's looking through these staffs. I kind of jumped on the top of the rotations, and the one that I think that I identified early on, and rightly so, has answered the bell, and that's in Wheeler and Nola. I don't think anybody left has a Wheeler and Nola. Not just that level of talent, but both of the guys, especially Zach Wheeler, has made it known that October he's fine with it. And
when do teams, real quick, I like this, Curt. When do teams start looking at their pitching and saying, okay, we can go far in the playoffs?
I don't think enough teams do it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's something a lot of teams understand, or maybe they understand it, but they just don't make it a part of their evaluation. But they know in many ways, like Baltimore, and listen, the GMs in Baltimore and Arizona knew going in this year. That doesn't change their desire to win, but they knew going in they were way ahead of schedule. And so, with Rodriguez and the staff in Baltimore, you've got some power arms. Those guys are going to be studs. And you can, I think, safely look at your team as, okay, we get to October, we got the guys to put in there. There are other teams I know that we're looking at. Arizona, I think, had to be kind of concerned behind Kelly and Gallen, but Fat ended up being the guy who threw as well as anyone first time around. But I'll say it again. I think that Lovello potentially over manages that situation, and that's going to be something to watch today. His desire to get Fat out of the game, I think, overrode common sense last time, from the outside looking in anyway. So, but we do have something fun coming up. If we're going to get a game 5, that much we know. And getting a game 5 means that we are going to get Verlander and Montgomery again. Game 1 was a pitcher's duel, and as much as 6 innings can be a pitcher's duel, but it was. Montgomery outpitched Verlander, and you know, it's funny because Verlander was good, but not October good, and he knows it. In October, good is 7 scoreless, 7 1/3, 1 run. That's a good start, not a great start, a good start. You know, because for the most part, you're going to have one of the starting pitchers that night is going to answer the bell and going to come up with a gem. And you know, the Diamondbacks have to have that today. I don't know how Fat, he's a guy who commands his fastball through the zone, not a power guy, not a swing and miss guy against a lineup that I don't know you can get through as a contact guy, right? In October, obviously during the regular season, you know, you can do things and things happen, but in October, I think Fat's going to have, I want to see him pitch a good game. But it's going to be hard. He's going to have to be perfect. And that's, you know, and unfortunately that's what October calls for. And I love that requirement. I love that demand because some guys do answer the bell, and like Zach Wheeler. So, I'm going to stick with Philly, Texas as my, final 2, with Philly being world champions. I just don't know that anybody can, I don't know that the Rangers have a staff to get through that Philly lineup 4 times and be better. But
it's so fun to watch the Phillies. They're so great right now.
Well, I think somebody in Arizona made a comment about, oh, the fans in Philly aren't going to be louder than they were at the WBC, blah blah. And I had to laugh at that, thinking, you know, first of all, don't give Philly fans a reason to be louder. When you do things like that, you create, you're going to lose. Don't bet against Philly fans. Bank One, well, it's not Bank One, Chase Field or whatever it's called now, will be loud. That's one of the loudest I can ever remember, but that was Game 7 of the World Series. And it'll be interesting to see the atmosphere. I'd like to think that the fans in Arizona are going to show up, even though it's at 2 p.m. But yeah, your season's on the line today, because a win tonight by the Phillies kind of ices that series. Is you know, I don't see Arizona having the team roster composition to come back and take 4 straight. I don't think anybody could against that Philly team, much less. It's hard against any team. But anyway, I'm expecting a 3-0 Philly series lead. If not, Pat's going to throw a gem. That's what I would say. I don't know that Arizona's going to hit its way to beating Philly. And then you got probably Verlander. I think you're going to see Scherzer out of the bullpen for the rest of this series. By the way, you know, let's not dismiss Bruce Bochy's just calm demeanor. And there's no it's no wonder why his teams have been to the World Series and won so many times. The guy's unflappable. And at this time of the year, that's a huge impact. It has a huge impact in the clubhouse, because anxiety and panic generally flows from the top down, and he's never anxious or panicking. And I think it shows in the way his team plays the game. And I think he's going to be headed to another World Series. And that will be fun. I think a Texas-Philly World Series is going to be enjoyable. I know I would imagine baseball, the powers that be, are a little frustrated, because I'm sure they want Texas isn't, for some reason, you always hear this coming out of the Major League Baseball front offices. They want the big markets in the World Series. I look at every market in an $11 billion industry as a big market. So I'm hoping Texas, which will be represented, by the way. Texas will be represented one way or another. So we'll be back on Tuesday, and we'll have a much clearer picture, if not a full picture, of the World Series from one angle at least, maybe. but I'm going to stick with Texas Philly. I think that's the destiny matchup this year. And it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, Arizona's in a must win, and Fat's going to have to bring the best he's brought. And I would like to see that, because I think that would make for a fun game. So anywhere you get your podcast, guys, OutKick, Spotify, Apple, anywhere, Curt Schilling Baseball Show, spread the word. And we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Johnny, have a great weekend, brother.